What is up everyone? Today I'm going to talk about my 2008 Mac Pro for the first time in quite a while. It's been 4 years since I bought this and I've only just remembered to make this video. I wanted to make it in January because it's the 4-year anniversary of when I bought my Mac Pro. I bought my Mac Pro in January 2011. So I just want to go on a little bit of a journey and kind of discuss my Mac Pro and the upgrades that I've done over the years, how it's held up and maybe my future plans about the machine, because it's amazing how many questions I get about my main machine. So rolling right back to late 2010, I was sitting here and I had a white MacBook that had been with me from the start. That was my first proper Mac. When I say proper, I did have vintage Macs before it because I actually had an interest in vintage Macs before I had an interest in everyday Macs. Because I had an interest in vintage computers as a whole, which is quite interesting. So I did have a few old school Macs hanging about until I got my white MacBook. And the white MacBook is a story for another day. But basically I had that and my G5. So I was using my G5 for all the video editing, and I was actually using it as a little bit of a main machine because it was still, PowerPC was still very usable as a main machine in 2010. So I used my G5 for pretty much everything, even though I used to use my MacBook for all things like Twitter and email, and that quickly shifted over to the G5 because it was a very speedy machine. It was quicker than my MacBook. So all I used my MacBook for then was importing clips from this camera and converting them from AVC HD to whatever I converted them to. I can't even remember what I converted them to, just a QuickTime Apple Intermediate codec kind of file to import on my G5, because as you guys know, AVC and PowerPC do not match. But anyway, this isn't about those two machines. I was sitting here and I remember this Christmas extremely clearly because I sold my white MacBook and I sold my Power Mac G5. I sold them both for £400, so I had £900 in total. No, I sold them both for £450, I think, because I had £900 in total. Yeah, the maths didn't work out there. So I had £900 in total somehow at the end of selling both the machines. Maybe I sold one for 500. I don't know. I can't remember. But anyway, I sold my white MacBook to a classmate at the time, and he was desperate for a Mac to do various Mac type things. I don't know what the fate of the machine is now because I'm no longer really in contact with that person, so I don't know. And I sold my G5 to a girl in my school year that was very interested in video editing, and I do feel sorry for her because she spent a lot of money on the machine and then PowerPC stuff just went and plummeted right down, and of course AVC HD was a problem. But I told her that it wasn't current hardware, but it was powerful hardware. And it, you know, Power Macs was still fetching £400-500 at that time, and it was a dual 2.5 gigahertz. So I sold those two machines and I used my PowerBook G4, which was my portable that I used for schoolwork. I used that in clamshell mode with my Dell 2009 W monitor as my main setup over Christmas, and it was really cool. I believe I do have a little bit of a video on that, but like, I didn't make a video about it because I didn't make loads of videos back then. It was probably one a week. So you just see it in the background of one of my videos, but that was such a cool time. And then I was going to get a Mac Pro 2007, like a 3 gigahertz quad core, and I managed to bag mine for an awesome deal at the time. It sounds terrible now, but remember this was 4 years ago. So the Mac Pro was only 3 years old. This Mac Pro was only 3 years old at the time, which is not very old for Apple's top-of-the-line system back then. So I managed to bag that Mac Pro, including postage, for I believe around £1,400. So I used the money from my 2 previous Macs, and I also sold my PlayStation 3, I believe, a vintage Macintosh SE, and I did a little bit of saving of about £200-300, and it all came together and I managed to buy the Mac Pro. So I remember it clearly because I remember phoning up James, and me and James weren't speaking a lot at the time. We drifted a little bit. I remember phoning James up and just saying to him, look, I've bought an 8-core Mac Pro, and it was just a crazy, unheard of thing. And I do believe that I was one of the first people really to bag a Mac Pro, one of the first non-pros to own, you know, non-rich, non-pro then, to own a Mac Pro, because a lot of people can buy them now really cheap on eBay, you know, £400 or £300 or whatever. But back then, you just could not get a Mac Pro for under £1,000. You know, it had to be really, really bad, and then it was, you know, 950. So I was one of the first to unbox a Mac Pro second hand on YouTube, and that video raised a lot of sort of ridiculous comments. People really didn't know what way to turn and what to say. But the original specifications of the machine, it was the Mac Pro 2008 3.1, just like it is now. It's got 2 quad-core processors, 2.8 gigahertz. It's an 8-core machine in total, of course. It came with 4 gigabytes of RAM, that's 800 megahertz DDR2, and it came with a ATI Radeon X1900 XT. We'll talk about that in a minute. And it came with a 640 gigabyte Western Digital Caviar Blue, which I've still got either in the machine. I don't think it's in the machine anymore, actually. I think it's over there, sitting over there on my desk in a hard drive protective case. But anyway, over the years I upgraded the Mac Pro like hell, but it hasn't changed a whole lot. I upgraded the RAM, I can't remember when, 2012 is kind of ringing a bell, I don't know if that's correct, but I upgraded the RAM to 8 gigabytes. I added USB 3.0 PCI cards, which I've since then taken out because of a new OS compatibility and all that stuff, and they were pretty crappy cards anyway. They caused me some problems. I've done all sorts with hard drives. I put a 1 terabyte black in it from my G5 as soon as I got it, and I upgraded to a 2 terabyte black, and kept adding storage space, and then I put an SSD in it, the same SSD that's in it now, the Samsung 830 series SSD that was originally for my Power Mac G4. So I've done a lot of upgrades, and the graphics card was definitely one of the most impacting upgrades because it made my Mac Pro feel smooth again. Before I upgraded to the GeForce GT 640, my Mac Pro and I did not have a very good relationship. When the X1900 XT was in that thing, bearing in mind it's such an old card, when it was in there it was loud, and a lot of it was neglect on my behalf because of the cleaning, and I'm not even going to go into the video that I did on cleaning that card. It was just a complete shambles. I had to disable the comments on it. But I felt like a distance between me and my Mac Pro, if that makes any sense. I was using it a lot because it's my main machine. I've put so many hours of use into this machine, but because it was loud and sluggish because of this graphics card, I was just annoyed with it, and I kind of lost my love for it a little bit. But then when I upgraded to the GT 640, which is by no means a high-end card, it's just newer and smoother and more efficient, when I upgraded to that card, it was absolutely fantastic. So smooth, so quiet, you can't even hear the machine in the background now. It's great. And since then I've gone up and up and up, really. I'm now driving 3 displays, 2 Dell 2009Ws and this BenQ one. I haven't managed to memorise the model number yet. It'll be another couple of months before I can do that. But the Mac Pro is still going strong, and it does everything for me. The majority of the videos that you guys see uploaded are edited on the Mac Pro. Some are edited on my MacBook Pro if I'm on the road, because as you guys know, doing 5 videos a week, it's a little bit of a strain. So sometimes I have to edit them on the road or whatever, but the Mac Pro does the majority of the work that you guys see. And over the years it's done all sorts. It's been through my phases of gaming where I haven't had a gaming PC, and I've played through a lot of games on the machine under OS 10. I've never ran Windows on the machine. That's one thing that I've never done, I don't think anyway, not as far as I can remember. But I've been through a lot with it. I've done a good few live streams, legendary ItsMyNaturalColour live streams, and it's done so much for me. I've edited quite a lot of video projects that haven't been YouTube related, so things that I've done for a little bit of extra cash on the side. It's done so well, and I kind of expected it to, because at the time it was an investment. £1,400. That's the most money I'd ever spent on anything. It's crazy. It was, £1,350, £1,400 as far as I can remember. And you know what? It's really paid for itself. It really has, because it's been absolutely fantastic for 4 whole years. It's over 4 years now, because I believe I got it January. I can't remember when I did the unboxing video. It wasn't the start and it wasn't the end. It was somewhere in the middle. So my Mac Pro is going great. Now, why am I making this video looking back? Why haven't I made it at 5 years? Why didn't I make it at 3 years? Well, it's because I've got thought processes, and this is the first time this has happened. I've got thought processes of possibly selling this machine. Now, even last year when I had talks of building a Hackintosh, I was mainly talking about moving the Mac Pro up into the studio and using it up there. But things have changed a little since then, so that's what we're going to talk about in this next section of the video. My Mac Pro is a solid machine, and as it stands at the moment, it does not need replacing. It does not need replacing. It does everything for me. But something that the Mac Pro does in the background, and every piece of technology does in the background, is no matter how useful it is to you and no matter how well it performs, it depreciates in value. It steadily declines. It's not worth as much tomorrow as it was yesterday. So I've got an issue at the moment where I spent a lot of money on my Mac Pro, but I kind of built up my Mac. So I built from better and better and selling and buying and selling and buying, and then I finally reached my peak, which was the Mac Pro, which was a machine that's going to last me for years. Now, when I sell the Mac Pro, I want to have enough money to make it worth it to upgrade to the next machine without having to spend too much extra money, if that makes sense. I'd kind of like the computers to daisy chain and pay for themselves. Now, what would have made sense if I wanted to truly do that was selling this Mac Pro in 2013 when it was still worth nearly £1,000, and then saving up a little bit of extra money and buying, say, a 2010 Mac Pro. And then if I would have sold the 2010 Mac Pro now, saved up a little bit more and built a Hackintosh, for instance. That would have made sense, or even bought a 2012 Mac Pro or something like that. Not that there was much difference, so there wouldn't have been much point at all. But what I'm saying is, the Mac Pro is declining in value now, and I'm a little bit too scared to look on eBay. I haven't looked in a while, but I do know that I will probably struggle to get £500 for this 2008 Mac Pro. Now, it's not a disaster, because people that invested into a 2006 or 2007 Mac Pro around the same time that I bought this one, they're worth hardly anything these days for what they can do, especially because of support and stuff. I mean, they only go up to Lion, so what can you expect? But what I'm saying is, I'm scared that I'm going to be left with a very, very expensive, in my eyes, paperweight that is a brilliant machine, but I don't need it anymore because I've got this next one, but I need to get money back, if that makes any sense to you guys. So the long and short of it is, if I was to build a Hackintosh, which I do want to do, in a Powermac G4 Quicksilver case at the moment, that's my latest idea, if I was going to do that, then moving the Mac Pro up to the studio would mean that I would have to scrape together all of the Hackintosh money from scratch. Now, this isn't a problem, it's something that I can afford to do. However, it kind of seems a little bit pointless because the G5 does everything I wanted to do in the studio. It's perfect, it's no slouch. But the Mac Pro, keeping the Mac Pro and the Hackintosh at the same time, even though I can afford to do it, financially it doesn't make sense because the Mac Pro is kind of then wasted power, and the longer I keep it, the less it's worth. So it's a little bit saddening to me talking about getting rid of the Mac Pro. In fact, it's very saddening, but it's just one of those things. I like the machine and I think I could get use out of it for another 2 years easily, maybe even 3 years, I don't know. It all depends on support and operating systems, because I can just keep shoving more RAM and stuff into it and upgrading storage. That doesn't bother me, and it can accept much bigger graphics cards than what I have now. And the processor, I've never pushed the machine, not since the day I've had it. So it is very sad talking about getting rid of it because it just chugs along and it's a complete and utter workhorse. But financially, it's got to be something that I've got to think about this year. It's sad, but it's true. So the bottom line is, if I was to build a Hackintosh, then I would probably build a Hackintosh before selling the Mac Pro and then regain my money by selling the Mac Pro afterwards. That all depends on what kind of financial position I'm in at the time of doing this transition. However, one thing that is very unlikely for you guys to see is the Hackintosh coming into my main setup and the Mac Pro going up into the studio. That's probably not going to happen because it just does not make sense. So you guys may be thinking, well, if you're pleased with the Mac Pro, why do you want to swap it out? Why don't you just keep it until it's worth no more than 50 quid and just keep it forever and ever, and then make the big investment into a brand new main machine when the time is right? Put some money aside or whatever and keep saving. That's a very good point, and I have thought about this, but a lot of things come into it. I want to do the Hackintosh not only because it'll be a better main machine to have. You know, every geek always wants more speed. Just because I'm happy with the Mac Pro doesn't mean I don't want more speed. But of course the Hackintosh would be a brilliant project to do on the channel. Now I want to do a Hackintosh project to broaden my channel, and I also want to do another build because I haven't done a build in a very long time, and I like to do 2 builds a year, you know, one cheapish, and one, you know, new. If that can be my goal for the next few years, that would be great. Just getting 2 builds out there, because some people love builds. In fact, loads of people do. So I'd love to do it for the channel's sake, because it would really grow the channel, and I do gain a lot of viewer feedback from builds, and I know a Hackintosh would be a brilliant thing to do, and I've wanted to do it for a long time now, since my first early Hackintosh plans, using that Corsair 650D case. So I went off on a bit of a tangent there, and I actually completely lost my thought process. But I was basically saying, if I built a Hackintosh, it would be extremely beneficial for the channel. Also, I'd enjoy the increased speed. And that's the only thing stopping me really keeping the Mac Pro for years and years to come. But also, I know with the Mac Pro that I would reach a point where it would become pretty much a slouch. I guess that happens with any computer. I don't know how long the Mac Pro 2008 has left. No one really knows, because it's still hardware-wise a very capable machine, but it's by no means the fastest machine out there. In fact, it's far from it. My MacBook Pro is a lot faster than my Mac Pro, and I don't notice it in day-to-day. It's more of a benchmark thing when you look at Geekbench stuff. I honestly don't notice it, apart from, you know, the obvious things with the PCIe-based flash storage on the MacBook Pro. But I don't notice it sort of exporting and rendering quicker, because I just don't edit enough videos on it. It's just a nice luxury. But yeah, it is quicker. And I would like to have a dominating, really powerful, awesome desktop that is, you know, my main machine, and it's quicker than the rest of my machines. It just needs to be the king. It needs to be on top. I've always loved a desktop as my main machine, and I'd just love it to be right up there in terms of speed. There's also that drive inside every one of us geeks that like building. It's really satisfactory when you build your own main machine. When I built my AMD Phenom machine, I actually tried to use Windows for more than just gaming for a little bit, because I wanted to use the machine that I'd built for something more than just playing games. And I've really had a hunger for doing that now for a long time. I want to build the machine that I sit at every day, because I want it to be exactly how I like it. And that's the bottom line. So in conclusion then, guys, this was a bit of a mishmash of loads of different things. I'm very all over the place today, and my head is jumbled up. But I didn't have a lot more time to make this video, because January is coming to a close, and I wanted to make the 4-year anniversary video about my Mac Pro, because it could possibly it could be going this year, and we might not see year 5 with my Mac Pro. Be cool if we did, but you know, I like, as I've spoken about in the videos, there's so many different aspects and so many different ways of looking at it. So it's a bit of a confusing subject, but I hope you guys have enjoyed this discussion, and feel free to leave your comments about your opinions and stuff. Of course, I haven't delved a lot into the financial side of it, and I didn't explain myself very well in that part, so it's going to be quite difficult for you guys to, you know, come to your own kind of opinion about my circumstances, but still I hope you've got a little bit of an idea of what's going on. So my Mac Pro, it's an absolute beast. I love it to pieces, and for the foreseeable future, as in, you know, the next couple of weeks or a month or two or whatever, it's sticking by my side and it's not going away. But very soon, as soon as the bank balance just creeps up that slightest bit and I get into my 5 video a week flow a little more, the new system may indeed just be round the corner. Depends on a lot of things in life. A lot of things in my life are up in the air at the moment, but we will soon see. So these aren't any kind of promises or anything. I just wanted to remember my Mac Pro and how brilliant it's been. I love it to pieces, and people say that you can't really get that attached to something like a computer. And you know what? Not in a nerd geek way. I guess I am a nerd and I guess I am a geek. But sitting at this thing for the amount of hours that I have done for the past 4 years, it's impossible not to be attached to it. It does everything for me, and it's a tank, and I will always, always remember it. It's just an absolute beast. So thank you very much for watching, everyone. Hope you've enjoyed this video. Of course, I hope you all have a brilliant weekend, and I will see you next week, which will include a few more interesting videos. I've got a couple of cool ideas in my head. Nothing too groundbreaking, but let's ease ourselves back into this 5 video a week schedule. Hope you guys are enjoying, and if you notice any of your friends that used to watch my channel that may not have seen that I've returned, because you know, interaction is a little bit down at the moment, then feel free to share these videos around, give them a like, and tell your friends, because it's nice if we can get as many people enjoying these as possible, because they are quite a lot of effort to make. 5 videos a week, it's a lot. So thank you very much for your support, guys. I really appreciate it, and as always, I will see you in the next video, which will be on Monday. So there's also that drive inside every one of